Hi there. My name is Lynton, and I'm an SAP development and integration architect for ERPcrew.com. I have about 22 years of SAP technical experience, and my goal today is, if there are business people in the audience, if you can walk away and have an ounce of value to take back to your technical team and say, why don't you try this technology that was mentioned at EDA Summit? Because it seemed to showcase quite a lot of value. Or if you're a technical person, I think that you'll find some of the stuff that I'm going to show quite enjoyable, and you might actually have quite a lot of fun with it. The title of my presentation is The Ultimate SAP Engine. I'm quite confident in showcasing what I believe to be the best of breed stack for your SAP engine. So what are we going to really talk about? If we put on our business hats for a second and we think to ourselves, well, what are the business people talking about? They have examples like, I need to onboard 20 business partners a month next year. How is the IT infrastructure and teams gonna actually do that? How are they gonna test it? You've got now functional resources who've got functional jobs. How are you gonna do both? People start to get stretched. As I said, the testing team just cannot handle the amount of volume of different testing things. Other obstacles that happen with large enterprises are they've got numerous EDR partners, and now some of those EDR partners might only have a production system. So how do you test if you have an SAP project and you need to do testing? How do you get that tested properly? And that's where simulation come into play. One of the things that you keep on seeing on the news is how massive ERP projects are overrunning budget, overrunning timelines by massive amounts of years and months. Why is that happening? How can we streamline that? There must be different ways. And as mentioned, I'm very confident in some of the things I'm gonna be showing today that can most certainly streamline these different parts. Even things like firewall changes. How many times have you been at a customer where a firewall change, for goodness sake, takes 2 weeks to get done? Again, this hampers developer productivity, hampers testing, and so it goes on. The engine room. So I like to have rock solid, fault tolerant pipes and infrastructure at a customer. And the pivotal pieces of this Lego set are event-driven architecture, test automation, and the ability to simulate systems. That's very important. I'm going to showcase that just now again. Network security simplification enhances, again, developer productivity. And then you want to be able to scale. You want to be able to support the business from onboarding value-added customers and partners. The SAP world these days is going through quite an interesting era where we've got the old school ECC and those customers, and you've got the new age SAP platform, and it's a difficult balancing act. There's a lot of opportunities that you might not want to take in the market, and there's a lot of opportunities that you might want to take. So I'm here to try and navigate your minds into where I believe you really want to go. So I'll be touching on the SAP engine from an event-driven architecture point of view with Solace and SAP Advanced Event Mesh. Now, as I talk through the slides, please note when I talk about Solace, I'm in the same vein talking about SAP Advanced Event Mesh because they are the same thing and under the hood. Then the SAP engine, Int4 Suite, rock solid, the best of breed in this area of test automation and simulation. And then a really cool thing, it's a thing that's exciting is ngrok and how much developer productivity you can get from using a tool like that. Not just developer productivity, but simplifying your production environment. It's ridiculously cool. And then how do you oversee this entire engine? You need to have a rock solid, partner like in my case, I would highly recommend Dragon ERP, and they provide that layer of management consulting, overseeing a project, streamlining how much faster it can get going. So this is the SAP engine overview. I know there's a lot going on in the screen. We're going to go through it step by step, so don't be overwhelmed by what you see. I'm sure it's going to ignite a few neurons in people's brains. But essentially, this is going to go through the event-driven architecture, API testing and simulation, as well as ngrok. But we're going to go through it piece by piece. Solace and the advanced event mesh. So we're going to zoom into that area of the diagram. And, we at an event-driven architecture conference, so I'm not going to spend too much time on why we want to go to event-driven architecture. Like it's known, the whole request reply or like synchronous API calls. That's so 15 years ago. The world's moved on. We've gone to a real-time asynchronous fault tolerant. Always think of that, real-time asynchronous fault tolerant. And that's what SAP Advanced Event Mesh and Solace bring to the table. So as I mentioned, events, everything's events these days. You look at Salesforce, MuleSoft, SAP. In this case, I'm on api.sap.com, looking at where they're moving with all their different business events. And again, you can quite easily go and in this case, I was looking at some events on their platform, and I could quite easily download the async API. Now, what is the async API? Well, it's an industry standard for asynchronous APIs, and it provides the specification, the documentation, and the code generation. So it really allows your enterprise team to start to unify across those different things. You might have Golang developers in the one corner, Java developers in the other corner, Python developers in the other corner. And this is now allowing you as an enterprise on a very top level to align those different developers on a unified API. As mentioned in Solace and SAP Advanced Event Mesh, for example, all these different event architecture platforms will allow you to download your asynchronous API. So we are all getting more and more used to it. It's just a natural progression from where we were a couple of years ago. With SAP, not everybody runs SAP Integration Suite. Not everybody runs SAP PO. Customers run Vumi. They run MuleSoft. So here's an example of MuleSoft, and that MuleSoft is embracing the async API as well, and that obviously ties directly into Solace and the SAP Advanced Event Mesh. Here's just the screenshot inside MuleSoft, where it's got all the asynchronous API support. Swagger. We all, as developers, know what that is, and this is just an example for those of you who might not have ever seen an asynchronous API, inside a tool like Swagger, where you can go and look at the documentation, API, the schema. In this case, this is a request for quotation asynchronous API, where you can go and a developer can go and drill down and look at the documentation, look at the different fields, get a good feeling for it. And then moving on to the more cool stuff, these days with all the different programming languages, vying for top slots for like safety. You got Golang, you got Rust, and what's so nice about the asynchronous API is that it supports numerous languages. Here's a case of me generating a Rust, a boilerplate code off of an asynchronous API, and you know what? It just worked. It just worked first time. All that generation, it was very, very seamless. So again, if we zoom up to like a manager, like a development manager's point of view, she's trying to align the Java developers with the Python developers and everyone in between, so that they all use the same framework, which generates the same documentation, and then that it's not isolated anymore. Asapia, what a wonderful company. They are SAP partners and also Solace partners. They essentially form as a tight SAP add-on that allows for the streaming of events to and from SAP. What I really like what I really like about Asapia, taking nothing away from SAP's standard. SAP standard is very much based on RAP, or RESTful Application Programming, modern age events. Now, if you can imagine, these events are generally quite skinny, where they would be an event where it just passes out a GUID or a primary key, and the consuming application needs to make a callback to go and get the real meaty data. What I liked about Asapio is that they provide rich functionality for legacy events like RDoc, or from RDocs, from SAP business objects, as well as modern day business events. And here again, they are forward thinking, supporting the async API, just like Golang, just like Rust, and again, Asapia forms as this tight bridge add-on onto SAP to just allow for the seamless flow of different events to Solace, to SAP Advanced Event Mesh, and back. Moving on to Int4. If we zoom in onto the SAP engine, Int4 really covers a large part of it, where it focuses a lot on the service virtualization. Earlier on I mentioned that you might have EDI suppliers who've only got a production system. So things like being able to simulate real life scenarios without literally being plugged into that third party or that supplier is really, really great. One thing I want to really emphasize with Int4 Suite is that it takes the burden off of your functional team. It's almost like a technical integration platform that allows your functional team to really do what they're supposed to be doing. It will take its Int4 Suite crawlers. It'll go and grab production payloads and bring them back into your lower environments, so that it can intelligently provide you that like peace of mind at night that, when you run your Terraform pipeline and it's taking through a code change for something that nothing breaks, or if your ABAP piece of code in the back end of SAP, a person in a totally unrelated project made one line of code change there, it happened to break an integration mapping, it'll tell you. Okay, so that's on the API testing front of Integration Suite. And again, just while I'm on the slide, the end-to-end nature of Int4 Suite cannot be said more. You can literally have end-to-end testing with your event-driven framework of Solace or SAP Advanced Event Mesh, right the way through either MuleSoft or Boomi or SAP Integration Suite or SAP PO. It's very, very flexible. And then also, while you're looking at the slide, it's a visionary. Int4 as a company is visionary, where it's aligning with SAP strategy. It's got tight integration to SAP Cloud Application Lifecycle Manager, and that's great for just that visibility from that sort of central hierarchy point of view. So the picture on the right, really says it all, where it breaks that need to have the physical connection to your third party or to your EDI provider. It's really, as mentioned there, true end-to-end testing. where you can go from your event mesh integration suite right to ABAP, and if anything breaks in between, it will tell you. Int4 has been known to really streamline different integration migrations. For example, from SAP PO to SAP Integration Suite, and it's got lots of tools and frameworks to make that a lot more seamless. Here's an example screenshot where an Ariba end-to-end flow was run, and we're now talking about seconds, which is just awesome. We can now get that total peace of mind and confidence that you've got a tool in place that is watching you and got your it's literally got your company's back with making sure things are just running right. That's a screenshot inside SAP Cloud ALM from that top view, where again just giving a company that nice view that their underlying infrastructure and systems are really working well. Int4 is a very much a forward-thinking company, and obviously adopting AI as most other companies are. They've gone down and have invested in getting Copilot working with their tools, so you can literally get into a bot chat and tell the bot what you would like to have run in your test suite, and that seems to be taking off rather well. And just going down, again, why is this so valuable? Well, your functional consultants can simulate and validate business processes more directly without waiting for that external system to be ready. That's really, really important. For your ABAP or SAP developers, it allows them to get production-like data into their development and QA systems right then and there. You don't have to wait, which is really, really good for getting nice, accurate data. Really important now is for the product and different release managers. It allows them to not have to be reliant on third parties during testing. Obviously, when the tile's right and that third party does come on, that's obviously great, but it doesn't perform a big blocker. It allows them to just carry on. And then for the testing teams, it just, again, it allows them to not have to rely on these third-party tests. Okay, moving on to ngrok. I mean, this is the real fun stuff now. I'm a programmer by nature, and this stuff really was it was almost like a sort of real big mind blow for me on how cool it was, just from an SAP point of view, to be able to test. So we're now talking about this part in the red, and we'll go through it now. So if we're on the top right and we are an external application and we want to call the service on the bottom right, if it's an external party or whatever else, we know how this goes. There's a lot of pain. You'll have a meeting. You'll meet with some people who need to have the firewall document approved, and then somebody wrote the IP address wrong, and then the next week you have to redo it, and then they only take through a firewall change every Thursday at 6 p.m. at night, and then if you miss it, you miss it. And there's a whole bunch of things in between, from different security layers to load balancing. It can be very, very tricky. Okay. Now, obviously, companies have moved also into Amazon, Azure, Google, and this is even adding more complexity on the network side. Not in a bad way, but just showing that it's just layering on extra hops that you now need to also cater for on the network and on the security side. So what does ngrok do? Well, you know what? I mean, this diagram will become much more clear just now when I show you how it actually runs. But essentially, ngrok take all of that away from you. You can literally expose an application in your network in a couple of minutes to an external party outside of your network. It's really, really cool how this works. So you can see that it can act as a Kubernetes ingress. It acts as your firewall, load balancing, denials of service protection, authentication, etc. So, what was the developer experience like before ngrok? Again, we know how this goes. You'll write some code, you'll build your code, you'll deploy it. Maybe your testing team is waiting for the deployment for half a day, whereas the Terraform has got some bug in it, and then they actually start testing it. Then there's a real bug. They get back on a Teams call with the developer. Okay, there's a bug. Let's log it, ticket, go back to the code. Off you go again. So it can be quite painstaking. What is the developer experience with ngrok? So on the left-hand side, you'll see the ngrok agent that was installed. Very important note, ngrok can run without installing anything. And you'll see on the next slide how that works. But essentially here, we've got an ngrok command saying, I have an application that's running on the machine that's on, and it's running on port 8080. And what that does is it allows the developer to deploy his app on his local machine, and then he will get a URL that he can give to his testing team, and they'll be testing it running his app locally, which streamlines. Okay, there's a bug. Okay, let's just debug it. Over a Teams call quickly. Okay, there's the bug. Change the code. Recompile on his local machine. Debug, and it's just so much better. So, for the different techies on the line. So this is how it would look. So the top command was me saying, I've got I want to run the ngrok agent on my local machine, and I want it to go to a domain online, publicly available for this test, called proxy.erpcrew.ngrok.app. Or if your company doesn't want to install actual software, it has to go through a whole rigmarole process to get something installed, as long as the server or application, or if you can even think about if your edge device, anything, as long as it can use SSH, you can SSH out on that device or server, and it'll again go out to ngrok and return you a public accessible address. So that red arrow at the bottom is pointing to an address that I could give anybody in this audience, and I could say, okay, run that in your browser, and I could debug that person's interaction with it on my local laptop. Okay, which is really, really powerful. This is an example of me on Solace at the top. Because with Solace you can receive a message onto a queue, and that message can then be sent to a RESTful endpoint. So in this case, I was like, oh well, I'll get Solace to send me a message onto my local machine, and there's some Python code that I'm just debugging at the bottom, and then also in the bottom left, I've got SAP Integration Suite, and also punching a message out to my local environment on my local machine, no problem at all. And over and beyond, that from a development troubleshooting point of view, ngrok provides quite a rich traffic inspector where I can get the raw payloads as they flow back and forth. Also great from a developer troubleshooting point of view. ngrok in production. I know I've been talking about all the real coolness of it from a developer's point of view, but let me tell you here, ngrok have got some really large customers using them in production. Okay, and it just streamlines that whole security network load balancing side of things. And so I'm really seeing that companies who want to expedite projects SAP projects, whatever projects, if you embed ngrok in your development and production landscape, it can have a huge impact. Now that you've got this SAP engine of, you know, great tools, like really great tools and platforms, you need to also step back a second and have the right team to oversee this and to manage it and to help orchestrate when things must be done, how they must be done, where they can save more time. Dragon ERP to me is probably one of the best, fastest growing names out there with SAP practice management consulting, best of breed. They are doing SAP carve-outs. They are firefighters. They are saving projects. They have a unique way of doing things. They use process mining using things like SAP Signavio to help customers. Gone are the days of, you'll be at an SAP customer site and the SR systems integrator will say, you know what, you'll only be able to see your SAP system in 18 weeks time. And the customer's like, wow, why do I have to wait so long? Dragon ERP bring that right back. They use process mining techniques, use tools like Lean RX to really let the customer see the system earlier. And then it becomes a back and forth where they can talk to the customer and say, well, you know what, we actually don't like this. Let's get this done. Rather than waiting 18 weeks or more to get the box, Dragon ERP streamline that and make it really, really great from a customer experience point of view. So what are our key takeaways? Well, we're at a very interesting mark in my 22 years of SAP. Moving from the legacy SAP systems to the new age cloud platforms, you really have got to get the right plumbing done, and you got to choose the right things. And just from my brutally honest point of view, my view right now is this exact stack. I wouldn't choose anything else. Know that you've got a very hybrid landscape these days. It's not just SAP. You got, from the Golang, Rust, embedded devices, these different tools like Solace and SAP Advanced Event Mesh allow all those different things to come into one unified event mesh that you can utilize well, and start thinking out the box. There's a lot of stuff out there. Get to know the different tech and say, oh, I can do that with that and blend this. Oh, there's a nice unique situation that we can really capitalize on, and get busy. There's stuff out there. Get talking to different companies. Get talking to not just all the big players. Get talking to the smaller players as well, who can give you more of a brutally honest view in some cases. Well, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to chat. We're at erpcrew.com, and thanks for listening. Cheers for now.